Welcome everybody. I'm Max Dadlift, and there is a war going on for your mind. I know that's a little inflammatory, but there is some truth to it. Every time you enter the public space or look at your phone or a screen, there are governments and corporations and multi-billion dollar algorithms that are vying for every scrap of your attention. What they're designed to do is grab your attention and not let go of it no matter what. They want to keep you in that spot for as long as possible in order to tell you a couple messages about how you're not enough as you are. You need to buy this product, this course, support this cause, fight this war, XYZ, in order to be a good human. I know we've been talking recently about the things we carry from a spiritual and emotional standpoint. And a lot of them, like we said, you're like a fish in water, right? You don't even know you're carrying some of these things until they're named. The first message that I want to address is one that stuck with me for a long time. It was your value is directly proportional to the amount that you produce. We already talked a little bit about growing up and grades and whatnot, and that's normal. Your kid, you want to do well in school so you can get into a good college and get a good job, right? But this kind of didn't stop with school. When I first got out of the army or got into the army, I was a platoon leader, and I was responsible for the health and welfare of about 65 soldiers, and out of those 65, I think four of them were literal felons, just thieves and drug addicts. I would get phone calls at 1:30 in the morning from the military police saying that so and so had to get picked up from the clink because they had a DUI and drug possession on post, and then we'd drug test this guy, and he'd piss hot for cocaine. And then as soon as we tried to press charges on him, he said that he was suicidal, so that we had to drop stuff and put him on 24-hour suicide watch for a week straight. So just after about 18 months of that song and dance, like I was stressed out a lot of the time, and I kind of wore that stress, that anxiety level as a badge of honor and a measure of my own self worth. When I got out of the PL position, I became the battalion's training officer, and my team went from almost 70 people to three other dudes, and we were just responsible for making sure training calendars were up to date and ranges were reserved, and there was a lot less stress. I was going from working 6 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. every day to basically PT then a 9 to 5, and my day stopped when I clocked out. Uh, with that came a lot less stress, and there was a little bit of a moment where, like, if I'm not stressed, if I'm not doing all this work, who am I? Am I worthwhile to the army? Am I worthwhile as a human being? And that stuck with me for a long time, and I had to fight it. Got over it momentarily, but then what was I going to say? Kind of hit me again after getting out of the army. Did 7 years of active duty, and then jumped into civilian life where it's literally 9 to 5. Worked remote, got to stay home most of the time, and didn't get calls on the weekends. And as long as I did my job, no one bothered me, and it was great. Um, but there was no meaning to it. It was, we're doing XYZ to increase shareholder value and drive revenue up, EBITDA, that sort of stuff. And kind of went through a meaning void after getting out of the army. It's just one of those things you're like, why am I here? What am I doing? And something that, still some days it'll hit you and say, what's it all for? But the important part is that you find some sort of meaning. So what I'm getting back on track, that message that you are what you produce is something that is fed to men, especially through culture, through I'm not going to say this is capitalism is bad, right? Because capitalism does a lot of good, but this is the kind of culture that you can't leave work before your boss. You have to be available all the time. You can't turn off. It leads to burnout and a feeling of worthlessness. And I just wanted to say that one of the counters to that is a reminder that we are all created in God's image, and as such, you have inherent value in that you're loved and He has a purpose for you, whether you're working 80 hours a week or whether you're between jobs. We don't produce to become valuable. We produce because we're valuable. Uh, it kind of reminded me of I went to the Czech Republic a couple years back during a mid-tour leave, and we visited this town called Kutna Hora. And there is a chapel there that is basically everything's made out of skeletons from plague victims. There were huge piles, pyramids of human skulls there, and nobody really knew who they belonged to. They were soldiers, there were peasants, there were princes in there. but to us, they were all just skulls. There was no identity to them, and kind of the purpose of that was to remind you, no matter what they did in life, they're all brought to the same level here by death. And even after death, while they're gone, they were still used to create something that, while it's somber and a little sad and a little disturbing, it's also moves you inside. There's meaning to it. There's even a little bit of beauty entailed to it. And in that, I think that there was some dignity, some quiet dignity attached to it too. And the point is to show you that you're all have the same value in God's eyes. Some people might interpret that as you have no value because no matter who you are, you ended up in that pyramid. But I tend to look at it the other way: is that regardless of your title, your name, your accomplishments, you still have that value. That God views you all in that same lens. So just some things to think through. One of the pieces of homework that I'm going to take this week, and I'd appreciate it if you do it with me, is just find 30 minutes between now and next Wednesday to be by yourself, quiet, do nothing. No music, no podcast, no phone, no screens, no exercise, no reading. Just take 30 minutes to be quiet, alone, unproductive. Um, One of the things that I like to do is I like to sit on the back porch and just watch the chickens peck around. It activates a lot of your parasympathetic nervous system, helps relax you, and it opens up the door for some just recovery from decision fatigue, and opens the door for some creativity as well. It's good for your soul. So that's my challenge to you. If you do participate, don't don't do it to comment below. But if you do it and you feel moved to say, "Hey, I tried it. This is how I felt." Great. If you tried and failed, tell us what tripped you up. But we're not doing this for content. We're not doing this to create something. If you need to whittle a stick or something while you're doing the homework, that's fine if it gets you in that flow. But you're not creating anything of value. Throw it away, discard it, destroy it when you're done. Think of it as a sacrifice. Uh, Join me next week for our next algorithmic lie that we're all being told, and we'll catch you next time. See ya.